Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel S2T. In today's show of Computer Wednesday, we're gonna talk about gaming PC versus console. So let's dive right into it. Well, first you have to understand the gaming industry. Now this is a big puppy. It's huge. When I say huge, I truly mean it. In simple terms, think of it this way. You take music industry, you take basically Hollywood, you combine both of them, this puppy still outgrows them. So this is huge. It's not a child's play or some people or some nerdy people. No, this is huge. Now there are three core components of this puppy. Is like one is mobile phone, which you have, PC, very likely you have, console, you may or you may not have. Now these three components make a lot of money. Now what kind of lot of money we are talking about? We are talking about $120 billion of money was spent around this puppy. $120 billion in 1 year of 2019. So let that sink in. It's huge, it's humongous. Like it's not something that oh, one or two people are playing. At this point in time, current estimates puts the amount of quote unquote gamers to be around 2 billion. Again, the number is huge because mobiles are also considered in this, but you get the point. It's not a small thing, it's huge. Now mobile, let's start with there. Now there is a very good chance you have a mobile phone. So what does that mean? That simply means any game that is made for mobile phone can reach a very large audience. Same happened with Angry Bird or my personal favorite game Boom Beach or Clash of Clans, because mobile games are easy and cheap. So even the most expensive game that mobile has to offer you, they are barely in few dollars. When you're talking about computer games, some of those puppies get insane. They get insanely expensive. So compared to those, this is free. This is nothing. So however, it does translate into games that are quote unquote basic. What does that mean? Let's say PUBG, it's very popular right nowadays, or Fortnite. These are kind of like they made a fancy set and people are playing around it, like a player versus player. Good game mechanics and all that, but there is no depth to it. Like if you play Call of Duty and you have been playing for a very long time, you will say there is a whole story behind it. There is whole campaigns in that. And if you are playing some of the console specific titles like God of War and all that jazz, like that has deep story. So like you can spend days just trying to understand what the hell is happening, and we spend weeks in side quests. So the game's depth is not there. Now like in terms of visual fidelity, it's very low. Like as a 3D game artist, I can easily see it. Like, hey dude, there is a in PUBG there is a vehicle. Generally they do not have shadows behind them. They do rarely have ambient occlusions, and like I can easily tell, dude, this is low. Like this is low. This is as low as IGI back in the day. However, it's amazing that it can run on mobile phone, but you still get the idea. Now if you play a PC game, like cutting edge PC game right now with like maximum setting and all that jazz, you're gonna get almost cinematic experience. Like, and I truly mean that. Like after playing for a while, and if you don't have anything that yanks you out of the experience, you will slowly forget that you are playing video game. Like you will inherently feel like every scene, emotions, actions, everything will start to blend together. So that is the reason why mobile games, while it is amazing, first of all, it does not cover your full field of view. So it always has that that distance to it. Computer games comes very close. So that is the aspect of it. Again, it is expanding gaming further than any place before, because again, when I said 2 billion people, most of the billion is coming from this puppy. So it is a good starting point, but again, the fidelity in terms of story, in terms of context, in terms of what can be done, it's very limited. Now what about console? Now console is the father of gaming. You have to understand, console started before personal computer were a thing. Like before any of the XP, Vista or PlayStation or all that jazz happened. So console is very important. Like and generally in terms of video gaming history, generally people claim NES, either Nintendo Entertainment System, this puppy, to be the granddaddy of all console system. Not only because it was 8-bit, that time it was a big deal. The fact that it was successful, not only the people who made the console, they made money back. The people who made games for this console, they also made their money back. So it became huge. Like it exploded, basically NES, and this happened in 1980s. So it is a big deal. It's not something small. Like it was huge, and it was before PCs became a thing where you can sell games to. So that is a necessary step. Like this became, the gaming became what it became today because of this. On top of that, like to give you a context of that, how big Nintendo was in its heyday, Sony literally built accessories for them, which allowed them to use CDs. And Nintendo trolled them. It's like, yeah, we're gonna add it, we're not gonna add it. And Sony got so pissed off, they built PlayStation 1. So let that sink in, like how big Nintendo was at its peak of power. So as of now, if you are playing Nintendo, you know what you want, you know you like certain game types, and you're gonna enjoy that. But what about general public? General public generally goes for Sony or Xbox. Now what does Sony have? Let's say you bought Sony. So Sony's USP is like Sony, they made amazing moves with PlayStation 1, but it was like mild success. So like, okay, like Sony is serious, Sony is here to stay, and it's gonna be here for a while, but it was not like, groundbreaking. But when PlayStation 2 happened, it blew up, and I mean it truly blew up. The amount of units sold in PS2, it was amazing. Like, and many people literally bought it because it was the cheapest DVD player available. So DVD player, yeah, that it's old, ancient, and it ran for 10 years, and it was amazing. Now Sony laid a foundation of an infrastructure where they're gonna build amazing titles exclusive to them. They're not gonna be like, okay, let's say I build this title, I'm gonna sell it in Xbox also so I can get more revenue. No, 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 no. You get exclusively. Either you make it for us or you don't make at all. So doing that, Sony slowly made certain titles like God of War, Gears of War. I'm saying there are certain other titles, and those titles like Last of Us and things of that nature. Those have audience to them. Like they are like MCU fans. There are fans for Sony exclusive titles. They will literally not play any other games other than those exclusive titles. They will flat out tell you, dude, I only buy Sony PlayStation simply because it has my favorite game. Generally it would be God of War or Last of Us, something like that. So Sony has those exclusives. So if you want single player polished experience, generally Sony is your game. Now PlayStation 2 was successful, but PlayStation 3 was not so successful because the number of new games that came out was not that great. The console was overpriced, so they had to sell it while losing money. So that put them in deficit. People were not so sure whether it's gonna sell enough, so not enough games. So it did not did well, so to say, comparatively. Now Xbox 360, it blew like this same way PlayStation 2 blew up, Xbox 360 blew up. However, same happened. Xbox One did not did so well. Like it did not do poorly, but it was like okay. It's like okay. So, but also Xbox also has certain games that people are like, dude, I just buy Xbox for one reason and one reason alone. I need to play Halo or I need to play Gears of War, things of that nature. So if you want exclusive, like and if you know what you are, you're gonna buy PlayStation. But for Xbox, generally people are still buying it simply because they have some exclusives. However, they are very good price to performance wise in terms of playing general release titles like, let's say, Call of Duty or Battlefield, which are available on all three, basically PC, Xbox and PlayStation. In those sort of scenario, Xbox generally wins ahead, and many people love their controller, Xbox controller, more than PlayStation controller. Like, think of it this way, Xbox controller sells as a hot accessories for PCs. It's so good, like flat out. There is no competition in terms of market share. Xbox controller wins flat out. There is no competition here. So however, you have to understand this, consoles are cheap relatively speaking, like for the amount of a graphics card, like a good graphics card. I'm not talking bleeding edge graphics card, like good graphics card. You're getting a whole console, and console has a graphics card, it has processor, it has RAM, it has a hard drive, and power management system. Everything is there. How the heck they are doing that? Basically they are using what we call a razor and blade model. So they're giving you console for cheap. However, they're gonna make their money back from games. So game titles are very expensive. The boxes that you see for game titles, be it Far Cry, be it Call of Duty, Sniper Elite, or things like that, those will be much more expensive. So you pay a premium from the, like, let's say, game developer. They have a dealership with basically Xbox or PlayStation, where it's like a certain chunk of our profit will go to you. So to maintain that exclusivity, so that inherently increases your cost. Like, you have to know, like, console games are not so cheap where you're like, oh, I'm gonna buy 20-30 of that. No, you're barely gonna buy 5-6 of them. However, the graphics fidelity of this is very polished. Now be mindful of that. I'm using that word very thoroughly. Polished simply means, because when PlayStation comes out, it's like, okay, this new PlayStation, that's it, done, game over. Everybody who buys PlayStation gets that. What does that mean? That simply means, as a game developer or as a game artist, I get a spec sheet. It's like, okay, make your basically a character with this many triangles with this kind of textures. I can make it. Every computer, basically every PlayStation will be able to play it with perfect fidelity. So that translates a very smooth experience for player. Player buys the game disc, puts the disc, plays the game. The end. There is no setting menu. Like you're not gonna go like into setting menu and it's like, okay, do I need far draw distance, or do I need to kind of field of view? Like you don't get most of those menus. Like flat out, if you see PC menus, like how deep they can go, it's basically nothing. Like why? Because the developer, basically whoever working in the game studio, they know for a fact what you're gonna get in terms of hardware, so they know how to fine tune it. Basically the same reason why Apple apps are generally much more fine tuned, simply because there are only few hardwares they have to test for. When it comes to Android, they have to test against thousands of hardware. So generally they have very smooth and polished experience. However, only in recent few years they have went into like, what the hell, I have no idea what the hell they are doing. It's basically, even consoles nowadays are like, you bought the disc and it's like, yeah, downloading day one patch, downloading day first DLC and all that. Like, yeah, that's just bad. So consoles, that's the business model. The console is cheap, but the game is expensive, and it is one use device. It can only do one thing. It's no longer even like, it's a very good Blu-ray player. PlayStation 3 was also successful because of that. But right now people are buying Xbox One S simply because that's the best 4K UHD Blu-ray player. So what about PC? Now PC makes game. Like this was my job, like have a dual monitor display with a keyboard and a Wacom and do all day graphics and all that. Just that's what makes computer games. You cannot make computer game in console itself, so we make games. Now here's the deal: if you are thinking about PC as a gaming thing, that's all. Like you spent your money, you're gonna buy this damn thing and you're gonna play games. That's your primary reason. You're gonna have a very bad experience, and it's going to be very expensive because nobody is forfeiting the bill. And if you are buying everything original, like let's say operating system itself, it's going to be expensive. The only way you can get the operating system for cheap is you buy a laptop. So it's expensive. Like I specified, like my graphics card was the same cost as PlayStation 4, like a complete console versus just one part. So PCs are very expensive. Now their experience is also poor. The reason for that is, first, the fragmentation. Like there are hundreds of things. Like do you have 8 GB of RAM, do you have 4 GB of RAM, do you have 16, or do you have 32? Like a game developer has to design so the software works with almost everything. So, and that is why every game you will see there will be minimum requirement and recommended. People generally want to sell in recommended system, but again, how can you be sure your customer have it or not? But they still have to fine tune the game so it runs for lower one. So that inherently creates conflict. That inherently creates a game engine where it's like, oh, I have to detect the system, then I have to run for it, and then I have to fine tune. Then driver becomes an issue because, again, so many drivers. Like you may say Nvidia, does not mean Nvidia. Nvidia simply means, okay, in one category you have then hundreds of categories. Like, oh, is it GTX series? Okay, which GTX series? Like 10 series and basically 9 series. What exactly it is? So that's the reality of it. It's very fragmented. So inherently that requires a lot of testing. And modern game developers forgot this. They're like, nope, you're not gonna do testing. We're gonna release the game. And like Dishonored was so bad. Like people were literally returning the game, getting pirated once, simply because pirates somehow figured out how to fix the game. That happened. That literally happened. Day one game was unplayable. So you have to expect that. And that is why, like when you're talking about GTA and all that, those type of games, those generally take 1 or 2 years extra after release on console to come onto PC. So that's the reality of it. And the hardware itself is, however, if you go through all those trouble, and if like let's say you get Crysis 3 or even the original Crysis, and you crank the graphics to the maximum and you have a hardware to run that, the fidelity you're gonna get is amazing. And in terms of story wise, in terms of context wise, like there is more than enough. Like people say like PC does not have exclusives. PC have more exclusive than every single console ever released combined. Like PC have more than enough. Like go into Steam, just like anything, you're gonna get so many indie games are only released, and most of them have insanely depth, deep story where you can spend like hundreds of hours and all that jazz. And there are certain types of game which are only suited for computers, like City Skylines. You can get it for console, but good luck playing with that. So that's the reality of it. Like in terms of fidelity, in terms of stories, and again, you can add console remote to basically a computer, but cannot add keyboard and mouse to your console very well. Like you can do it, but keyboards generally work, but you're not gonna get AWSD because that again gives a competitive advantage. In multiplayer you have to maintain those things. So that's the reality of it. Like if you want fidelity, you're gonna get it. However, one crucial advantage that PCs have is patience is generally rewarded. If you're patient with it, let's say Doom Eternal just comes out, like whenever it comes out, and you're like, hey, I can buy it right now, or I can apply some disc break. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna chill. I'm gonna play it 1 year after. Now, if you can do that, you're gonna get amazing experience. By that time, all the bugs will be ironed out. By that time, most driver issues will be fixed. By that time, most big, huge game-breaking glitches would have been taken care of. So you're gonna get a smooth game, and you're gonna get it cheaper because, like again, like Dying Light can be so, like the game day one cost would be let's say $60, and after 1 year the cost would be like $12-13. Now this price drop does not happen that dramatically on console side. That is the main reason. So if you are patient with your system, and heck, I got whole Batman's saga for free because like Epic Game Store has a sale for that, and this sort of amazing things will happen again and again and again in PC world. So it's common for us. Like if you are patient, PC is gonna reward you. If you are patient, Steam is gonna reward you. It's like, hey, entire Tom Riddle series for $10. Here's the deal, $1, go YOLO. So these sort of things happen. So if you're patient and if you're like, okay, I do not have to play day one game, computer is gonna reward you in terms of the cost of the game, in terms of the fidelity, in terms of experience, everything will be amazing. But you have to be patient. If you want to experience day one enjoyment, it's really not that good. However, to be fair, nowadays even consoles are not that good. So that's the reality of it. So I hope this video helped you to understand what the hell is going on with PC versus console and all that jazz. In this scenario, if you liked it, learn from it. In that case, please click like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I'd urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me your extra disappointment, and please leave a comment because I try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.